Hello, you golfing legends, and welcome back to another episode of the original Off Course. I'm your host, Dan Edwards, and joining me this week is Mr. Zach Oakley. You know him from Callaway Granddaddy fame. He's also kind of a big deal over there in the iron game, which is why he's here today. Zach, welcome, buddy.
So flattering. Thanks, Dan. Great to be here.
I didn't say anything about your golf game. Settle down.
My non-existent golf game, yes.
You know what we should do before we get this kicked off? How about a shout out to Jay Newts, Jeff Newton, who is
Yeah.
the kind of the man behind the operation of making sure we don't get this wrong from a scheduling standpoint. What a guy.
Oh, he's a legend for sure. Definitely shout out to him for getting all this set up so we can talk to all the whole THP group.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. There's something about Callaway releases on the forum specifically that just there's a wave of excitement that usually follows it. Uh, with I'm going to hit those like as soon as they show up at my fitter. So obviously super relevant that when something comes out, we need to get you guys on here to talk about them so they have a good framework as to what they want to do when they get to the bay or to the demo day or whatever they're doing. So new Apex product and some new XForge product coming live here for me. I think next week for you guys listening, obviously they will have dropped. How pumped are you guys?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, obviously, Apex has been the staple, kind of the flagship of Callaway irons for the better part of a decade. So being able to have anytime you have an Apex launch, it means something special. So we're excited with the couple different drops that we're bringing, and then XForge has been kind of a dark horse. I think we launched that in Japan last year. It's kind of leaked out on tour, and there's been certain call them like spy photos or whatever you want to call them that end up in the forums, and lots of people asking about it, and so we're excited that we're bringing that in.
Yeah, what I love about it is we've seen X-Forged in the past. We've seen Apex in the past, and for a lot of us, it's like, all right, what's different? What's new? But we also have, for the most part, everyone finds one that really works for them. And I'll give you an example. X-Forged CB were like, I almost took them upstairs and laid them down beside me a couple times. Like I just loved them so much, you know. And then there's always like these little tweaks that you guys do to really refine them and make them better. I think the majority of golfers would probably say something like that about an Apex product. They've been around since what, 2016, even earlier than that,
2014, yeah.
2014. So it's been 10 years, man. And it's like, if you haven't hit one at this point, you're obviously not going into a golf store or going to the golf course. Uh, but the idea is, man, like there's a constant build on idea where you can take the framework of something that people really like and make it better. So what I want to do today, where I would normally go to the style that I'm, salivating to hit, I think we start at the top, man. There are three specific categories that I received information from, and one of them is game improvement, and that's where the Thai Fusion plated and Thai Fusion 250 are coming from. Can you give me an introduction to those two products, or even one at a time?
Yeah, and I think we can start with the Thai Fusion platform because they do share kind of the host of technologies. And then we have two different sort of spec packages and shapes, right? So Thai Fusion we launched last year, later in the fall, which really represented Callaway's most advanced iron that it has ever created. Bringing titanium and steel together is not it's not easy. There's a reason why there's not really any other options out there that have those two materials specifically, where you have a titanium face, which is the same material we use for drivers. It's lighter weight, it's exceptional at delivering ball speed, and then you have kind of this body material that the steel, because its strength to weight ratio provides all that stability. So you get this iron that delivers great ball speed. We talk a lot about deflection, and really we were kind of talking about that a lot last year with AI Smart Face and the smoke drivers. But the deflection that we're seeing and kind of the material properties, you just get really, really tight spin consistency, which, typically if you get a two-piece iron that's kind of got a hot face, you will experience flyers, you'll experience kind of like little hot spots, and you don't see that with the Thai Fusion iron. So, and then to top it all off, it interacts with the urethane microspheres a little bit differently, and so you get this iron that is got performance of a two-piece, modern construction, but almost the feel of almost more of a traditional type of tour iron, but with kind of forgiveness built in. So that's kind of what the Thai Fusion platform is all about. And then the other piece of that was that there was two things we wanted to do, and we really wanted to broaden kind of who this iron would attract. One, we wanted to update the finish. So last year we launched it in a darker finish. We know that not everybody likes the darker finishes just because of the way that they can typically wear, or they just don't. They like something that looks a little more traditional. And then we also wanted to kind of broaden the player type. So with the Thai Fusion plated, that's going to be the same chassis, same spec, same everything that we launched last fall, but in this chrome plated finish. And then with the Thai Fusion 250 plated, that one's going to be a slightly different profile. So that one's going to kind of slot right in between where our AI 200 and AI 300 are in terms of shaping and specs. So it's kind of right in the middle of that game improvement space. It's going to have a little bit longer blade length, a little bit thicker top line, a little bit wider sole, a little bit more offset. So kind of giving that player who's maybe that 12 to 14 handicap an opportunity to play Callaway's best.
Yeah. Well, two things I want to touch on. First of all, Epic Forge was that for me. It was like that that iron you guys created that I thought at the time, especially in the long irons, I'm like, dude, these things don't make any sense. They're doing things they ought not to. Um, you every once in a while you come around an iron that just feels that way, right? It just does more than you expect it to, and man, they look good too. So,
Yeah.
um, I'd love your take on that, as I feel like some of this has been built off the Epic Forge concept, and how much is having an iron like that in the past that people really get excited about and get confused by because they're successful with it. How much is that you can sort of leapfrog into something different from there?
Yeah, well, I think this is a project. I mean, Epic
Epic
Forge.
Forge, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Epic Forge was, it was kind of a concept type of iron, right? It was kind of this high performance. Let's see what R&D can do when you kind of pull off some of the cost constraints that you have to normally, typically operate under. And Thai Fusion's kind of similar, right? It's like, okay, if we kind of like, let's take the governor off, let's see what R&D can really do. That's what Thai Fusion really represents. It kind of represents like, okay, we've identified these two materials as having a real benefit to performance. And it required us to go out and really develop kind of a new construction method, new manufacturing methods. It took us, we've been working on that for a couple years. I mean, I think they were working on that well before I was even at Callaway. And so it's really cool to see it come to life. And to your point about it kind of being a surprise, I think, when we did the kind of the road show where we're showing accounts and, our sales team and all the different people that are in the industry, when we were kind of doing that road show last year, I'd stand up in front of, all these people and I'd say, hey, this is the most advanced iron Callaway's ever made. And of course, people go, well, yeah, you've said that before. And yeah, I get it. But like, seriously, you guys wait till you hit this. And it was like clockwork. We'd get out on the range after the presentation. Someone would go, they'd hit it. And the first thing they'd turn around and be like, whoa, what was that?
Well, that is the idea, right? And I've had this conversation this week already with someone talking about how much marketing can feel like snake oil or smoke and mirrors, or generating, well, this is what we did, so let's get this like crazy storyline.
Yeah.
But what I think is best is when you have companies who can actually create something unique and then really tell that story to promote it. So the idea, this is the best iron we've created, it's not saying bad about the iron you've previously created. It's like you just keep stretching the bar and making it more and more interesting and different and new material, right? Like Thai Fusion as a whole is kind of a crazy concept.
Yeah, no, I think yeah, and it's funny because like obviously working in the industry, like I've always kind of had the attitude of, I was a golfer before I worked in golf, right? And so like to me, authenticity is important, and I wouldn't say that it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was the most advanced iron we've ever created if I didn't truly believe that. And I think that's cool, and that was a product that was really cool because I almost kind of relish the opportunity to hear people kind of, okay, yeah, you've said that before, and then but like knowing that when they hit this, they're gonna go, oh, okay, I see what he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, I know we've got lots to talk about, but Thai fusion as a whole, the reaction to that, the feedback you received, and one of the most interesting parts of it is like, all right, where does this fit? Because it looks different than you'd think it should for the profile that it's promoting, and yet players who are better are really enjoying it. And it's also in a spin matrix that's a little bit different from an iron of that style. So circling back to Thai Fusion as the original release and then moving into, let's say, 250, or even I guess you have two, so you can start there and build on it if you'd like. Are you more able to refine the type of player that should be chasing these particular Thai Fusion irons at this point?
Yeah, I think that when we had the original 150, that and to be fair, like when we were creating this iron, one of the things I think even the engineers were surprised at was how tightly controlled the spin consistency was. And like kind of throughout the development process, that was something that kept coming up in testing was like, wow, these like are the spin standard deviation is just so much tighter than we were expecting. And I think that what that does is it really does lend it to be something where like a better player can put it in the bag, because again, that's why you see if you have someone who's high speed or generally is a competent ball striker, they're looking to hit a number, not necessarily add more distance. And so that was kind of the cool thing with Thai Fusion is that you could have that. I think the original Thai Fusion we said is kind of the 150 slot, so it's kind of in that players iron, kind of on the like, higher powered players iron segment. So you can have like your 5 to 7 handicap, put that in the bag and not have any issues with flyers or anything to that end. And then with the 250, it's just broadening that, and you'll see players. I think Finley's got him in the bag now, and so he's a good golfer, good ball striker. He's looking to pick up a little bit more distance and forgiveness, but it's still in a profile that looks good and clean. So
Okay.
um, it's that's kind of what I think the really cool thing about Thai Fusion is that it kind of checks both the distance box and the precision box.
Okay. So Thai Fusion plated is effectively a similar release with a different finish at this point, or is
Yeah.
there
So
subtle changes?
the original Thai Fusion came out in the darker finish. The new Thai Fusion plated is the same. We made some slight modifications to logos and ID and whatnot, but for the actual product itself, we didn't change shape, we didn't change specs. It's the same iron, just with a new finish, which by the way is also proprietary that we had to figure out because the chrome plating and titanium don't necessarily go together for people that are material scientists out there. So they would probably understand that. So we had to kind of go create that whole process to even get that to work. And then the 250 is basically a blend of our 300 and 200 shape, but with the Thai Fusion construction.
Okay, let's talk more about 250 then, because we've heard about Thai Fusion, we understand it. I think a lot of people have gone to hit it, whether it's within their realm or not.
Yeah.
I think 250, to your point, is that next connector, right? We're bringing this potential control and ball speed and precision into a product that might be more supportive for those like mid handicap guys that just want to have a bit more fun out on the golf course.
Yeah, I mean, and that was the whole point behind 250 was to bring Thai Fusion, which was again kind of that mid single digit handicap, bring that opportunity for that middle handicap, that 10 to 14 range that is looking for something that's going to inspire confidence, it's going to be forgiving, that's still in a nice players like shape, but it's going to have, better launch. If you do catch it a little toey, you're gonna have forgiveness built in. And so I think that's where that product really sits in the line. It's really trying to bring Callaway's best to more golfers.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been a little bit going down a rabbit hole lately with irons as it relates to ball speed around the face, and some of these new technologies that are coming out where you hit one thin, you expect ball speed to change, you expect spin to change, and I think from a guy who does an okay job repeating a swing, that is the one thing I've really started to focus in on. Like I'm gonna hit it probably a little thin if I'm going to miss. I really need that number to be within 2, 3, 4 mile an hour ball speed. So I'm not, staring at it as it falls out of the sky into the front apron or the front bunker rather than being on the green. So, I think when it comes to the entire lineup, I'm really curious is how much you guys focus on that ball speed retention or just consistency retention around the face.
I'd say it's one of the top focuses, if not the top focus for our teams in terms of, building. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we've gotten so obsessed in using AI in our process to, really find out where golfers are hitting it, and helping them retain speed so that they do hit the green more often. I think that's, between that and dispersion and trying to, eliminate side spin and those types of things, it's a huge focus for us because it is, I mean, honestly, it's the best way outside of maybe, three putting less. It's probably the best way to lower your scores is to hit more greens.
Mm.
So it's definitely something that we're top focus for us.
Yeah. Tell me about spin a little bit. I think the Thai Fusion originally came out with a bit more spin than I anticipated it, which is actually a good thing. It allows for more control.
Yep.
Does the spin concept change between the traditional and the 250?
It will. The concept won't change much. I think what you'll notice is that the 250 will have deeper CG, so it'll launch a little bit higher, a little bit easier. But one of the things that's really cool about titanium, and people that are looking at the lofts might look at it and go, well, they're kind of on the stronger side. And one of the reasons we had to strengthen the lofts is because titanium and the material properties, it launches higher with more spin naturally. And so what we were noticing is that when we had them at, call them the target lofts that we had chosen as, based on, where we see players and the target player and what they're looking for and call it a 7-iron, it was just launching straight up in the air with a ton of spin. And so they actually had to strengthen the lofts to hit the window that we're trying to achieve. And that's the other thing that you'll see with the Thai face and both the 250 and the Thai Fusion and the comment that I think we get most often when players hit them is that ball launches in a window and it stays in the window.
Hmm.
It doesn't deviate. It just stays there and it looks like it's carrying forever in that sort of trajectory that you're looking to see. And so that's definitely something that you see with titanium specifically versus steel.
So is that window like around 100 yards or 100 feet of peak height?
I'd have to. It probably depends on the iron. I don't know off the top of my head, but
Finally got him, folks. Finally got him one time. That's not bad. That's all right. Let's move into the AI 150. I think this is a head that makes an outrageous amount of sense. A lot of similarities to some irons I've played in the past. So I feel like you've taken a couple IDs and sort of merged them together here. Tell me more about AI 150.
Yeah, so I mean, in the past we've had Apex Pro, and kind of your core Apex, and then we had Apex DCB, and then last year we launched the 200, which was kind of your core Apex players distance iron, your 300, which was kind of more towards the game improvement side, and we didn't have a Pro. We had the previous year's iteration still online, and so we've updated that. We've got the 150 now, which is for that. It's a pretty similar player type to what Thai Fusion is. Obviously, it's not built the same, and so you're going to have different price points. You're going to have different kind of features and benefits there. But this iron is built for. I like to say it's for that 5 handicap who's not necessarily looking for distance, but they're not trying to give up distance either. They're looking for kind of that control, precision, workability, in something that still has a little bit of pop and technology built in to make sure that you're not giving up anything.
So I need to know the AI component here, and I guess we could circle that back to the 250 as well. What makes it such a differentiator to bring AI into the fold for an iron like this?
Yeah, and it's a great question because I think when we're looking and using AI, I always say it's kind of like if you're playing a video game. This is very simplified, but if you're playing a video game and you've got like the attribute sliders, and you only get so many of them, but you can toggle between different priorities, and that's kind of how we use it. And again, a very simplified version of that, but giving AI say, hey, we want to focus on precision, we want to focus on spin consistency and dispersion, more than we would on speed, then that face topology and where the thickness is on the face and how that face deflects will change. And so with the AI 150, we want that to be more about control, more about precision versus something maybe in the 200 or the 300 where yes, there's still precision baked into that to them, but there might be a slightly higher priority on ball speed.
Gotcha. Just sort of looking at the tech sheet right now to my left here, and I'm reading that there are actually two separate concepts across the face. So 3 to 7 iron is a bit different versus 8 to pitching wedge. I'm gonna guess that the top end of the bag is more built for supportive distance, and the more lower end of the bag is more based on precision and control.
Absolutely. And I think, you look at kind of in that 3 to 7 range. I mean, not everyone's playing a 3 iron, but when you start getting in the top of the bag with, fours and fives, we've seen, I mean, the top of the bag solutions and fitting right now is very much a big conversation, both internally here at Callaway, but also just in the wider industry. And I think it's because, the 4 iron and the 3 iron have really in kind of the full set, that's changing a lot. You look at on tour and a lot of players have combo sets. They have different options in the top of the bag. I think if you look at the top 25 players in the world, I bet you only a handful of them are playing the same iron set from 4 iron to pitching wedge. And so I think for us, when we're looking at designing on the longer irons, it is about trying to maintain consistent gapping, making sure that your 4 iron, your 5 iron aren't going the same distance. And it's going to be different for every player, right? Some players are going to be able to play the 4 and the 5. Some players might need to put an AI 200 4 iron in and play 5 down. So, we use a high strength material in the longer irons. We're using 455 steel. It's the same ones we use in the AI 200, 300. It's lightweight. It's exceptionally great at producing ball speed. It's a high strength material, and so that's why we use it in the long irons. And in the short irons, we switch to a face plate where we're more about control. It's less about generating tons of speed and more making sure that the spin consistency stays as tight as we can get it.
Yeah, face cup has always been really interesting to me because I feel like that's part of the discussion I was having earlier about moving down from center to maybe a lower groove
Yeah.
that I don't love to talk about, but when you can get away with it, it's not so bad, right? And I assume that's why we see face cup being so consistent in the lines.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is about making sure that if you're hitting it off center, you're not, again, going back to that conversation about speed retention. That's what a face cup is helping you do.
Yeah. Well, I want to go for a little intermission here before we get to XForge and XForge Max. And it's kind of an awkward time to do it because I think it probably applies a lot to them. But when it comes to tour feedback, you get it. I've had the Opus discussion, how quickly they jump into it. I've talked about the drivers and how quickly they've incorporated them in play. When it comes to irons like this, I know it's more for like the everyday golfer in mind, but these are some of the things that I've seen on tour where they're taking these types of irons and incorporating it in that 4 or even 3 iron to get a little bit extra, maybe off the tee or into some of those longer par threes where you want to stop them a little softer. Um, what is the tour feedback, and have you gotten a lot on these particular irons?
You're talking about the XForge? The
Any
what?
any iron in the current lineup you guys are
Oh,
dropping? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we definitely do lots of tour testing. Not necessarily with something like Elite. That one doesn't necessarily get as much tour kind of input, but pretty much all the Apex irons will have tour input from whether that's the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, Champions Tour. We get feedback from those players, and even something like Fusion. We've done some testing. We've definitely done prototypes to try to see how does this react when a tour player hits it, and 150 is the same sort of situation, right? I mean, at one point, I think, and I think he still has it. Rom has Apex Pro 4-iron in the bag, so at some point we'll try to get him into the 150. And that it's not even just our own staff. I mean, you look at our some of our competitors and their staff as well. I mean, a lot of those guys have put a more forgiving 4-iron in their bag, and I think it's we've talked about this a lot internally, but there's reasons why, right? Like launch, spin, easier to hit, more forgiving, all the things. But I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that modern solutions are better than some of the more traditional ones. And also, when you're faced with a shot that's, call it 220, 230, or whatever those guys are facing, and they hit their 4-irons a mile, um, they're looking for confidence. And at the end of the day, that club is going to give them more confidence. And so that's why it's in the bag, and they trust it.
Mm.
And so maybe it doesn't work throughout the whole set because they're particular about shapes and launch windows and spin. But in that particular section of the bag, that's why you see longer irons like AI 150 going in, or even something like high lofted fairway woods. I mean, that's obviously a huge part of the discussion right now as well.
So that's part of why I'm so fascinated by it, because in the past, you have the pros hitting the new, and I'm not referencing any one particular company, but you have them hit the new, flagship iron, and they're like, look at how far the pros hit it. Meanwhile, the pros like, I'm never going to hit this club again, but it sure is fun to do it. Whereas I feel like these irons really have start to gained application on the tour side, where we benefit with an 8-iron, they benefit with a 4-iron. Um, and that sort of cascading effect as it goes.
Yeah.
I'm really curious when they hit something like Fusion, or when they hit something like AI 200. Is there a level of surprise or confusion based on their expectations, or are they seeing things they expect to see?
I think it depends, right? I think with the AI 200s or even the 150s, we'll see a lot of our LPGA staff put those into play, and I think for their swing speeds, like that iron is perfect. So I think, and a lot of them have come out of a Apex Pro or even an Apex 21 or something like that. So I think for them it's less of a surprise. But there was a Tour Pro that was down at the ECPC. I think it was the last week. I won't name names, but he was hitting the 150s, and I think he was hitting an 8-iron, and he was kind of like, huh, like I need to look at this, and it is kind of surprising to see, and it also makes you go as you're looking at your own game, you're like, well, if that guy's playing the 150s, why do I have TCBs or XForge or whatever, right? I mean, it kind of makes you think and wonder, like, I'm not as good as him.
Yeah.
So it is kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our story when we go to the range and something happens, or you see someone do something like, dude, how are you doing that? Or how am I doing this with this product? I just put 4-irons by comparison today, and one was just killing it. And it's like, man, the comparison is wild when you do it yourself. And the tour guys who hit the middle of the face every time might I was kind of expecting them to be sort of more dead in the reaction perspective, but then you have a club that, well, let's say you want to launch something, they hit it and it goes a million miles in there. The shock value's got to be ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it depends too. I think some players are certainly more in the tinker gearhead. They like to try stuff, and they're fine kind of just testing stuff out. Some players are kind of just like, just tell me what the numbers are, and I don't necessarily care what iron it is. And then some players are very much like, I'm not, that's not for me. I'm not going to try that. So
Mm,
it kind of just depends.
gotcha. Well, let's talk about the iron that J-Man can't wait to tell a story about, which is XForged. It
Yeah.
it looks really good, really refined lines. Where did the concept come from, and why did it end up looking the way it does?
Yeah, so this one, like I said, we launched last spring in Japan, the X Forge, and what our team did was, I think partially when we look at kind of the different global markets, single piece forging and kind of that heritage type of traditionalist purist iron has done really well in Asia and specifically in Japan, and so we were refreshing X Forged. I know that we've gone away from it here in the U.S. for a couple years, and we sent our engineering team, our design team out there to work with the Japan tour team on the next set of X Forged. And they're incredible. They do a great job, and so they have a lot of great insights on shaping, specs, kind of all of the design elements that you need. And then the other thing that our team did was, go watch the different tour players over there hit through the turf, and the turf over there is a little bit different than a lot of places here. It's kind of firm underneath, but then it sits up a little bit too. And so it was really important that the sole design, uh, we got that right. And so that's where you see this new tri-sole design. And actually, if you look at Elite, Apex, any of the irons we've launched in the last, call it year and a half, it has some version of this tri-sole design that actually originated from this X Forge that we're launching. And so it's been incredibly received. Like I said, I think we've had a lot of people asking about it. Hey, when's this coming? Is this coming? And we're glad that we're able to bring it. Actually, fun fact, it's the number one uh, fit iron at our ECPC, our performance center here in Carlsbad over the last 12 months. So, we're bringing in better players, whether that's tour, staff pros, club pros, some of the VIP type stuff, and everybody's asking for it. So we're glad that we're bringing it to market finally for the everyday golfer.
The first question we're gonna get on the forum when this goes live is, "What the hell is a tri-sole?" So maybe we break that down just a little bit more. What is it, and what do players expect to gain by having it?
Yeah, so it's really about efficiency because we're trying to get you in and out of the turf as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So you're going to have uh, a leading edge that almost is like a pre-worn leading edge feature where there's a little chamfer there that gets you in. If you catch it a little bit heavy, you're not going to be as penalized from it. So it's going to have you're going to have more speed retention through the turf. And then on the kind of middle section is more of a stability factor, right? So you have kind of a leading edge chamfer, kind of that stable midsection, and then on the back end there's a trailing edge relief area. So that's your three pieces, and that trailing edge relief area is there to not. We put it there so it doesn't catch. So you get in with the leading edge and you get out with that trailing edge relief to make sure that you're retaining speed through the turf, especially if you catch it heavy. And I also think it has a big part of the feel aspect, which obviously with X Forge is kind of one of the main reasons why you'd play this iron. I think getting in and out of the turf efficiently is a big part of how it sounds. So feel is a big part of it.
Okay. So there is an element at the back that is sort of taken away, but if you do happen to hit one a hair heavy, is that area now gonna get activated as you go through a little heavier?
Well, it's more the front edge that's going to get
Front
activated,
edge?
right?
Okay.
Because that's the part that is would typically dig. So this is helping you not dig as much as you kind of get into the turf. So if you catch
Mm.
it, obviously if you're catching it an inch, 2 inches behind the ball, there's not an iron on the planet that's probably going to help you. But if you do catch it just a millimeter or something like that, right? It's not a pure strike. You'll notice that, hey, this gets in and out of the turf really good. And even if I do catch it heavy, I can feel the sole helping me.
Yeah, sir, you've been fit into Big Bertha. Thank you. Yeah, that's I really felt that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
um, tell me about the material choice. Is it the same or different from others in the Callaway lineup, and why do you choose that type of steel?
Yeah, so it's a 1020 carbon steel. It's really soft. I think that's one of the big, obviously, it's one of the big kind of drivers of the sound is using a softer material. And so it is different. It's softer than what we use in Apex. It's softer than what we use in any of our other irons. And so when we're looking at that, part of that is working with our team in Japan on material selection as well, trying to find the material that we know. Obviously, we've done this for a long time, so we know what materials, how it is working with them and whatnot. But in this case, we're targeting buttery soft feel, so you need to have a soft steel, and so
Mm.
that's why we choose 1020 here.
Yeah, 1020 carbon steel. How do you feel about iron head covers? You feel good about
Uh,
it?
not
Not so
it's
good.
not for me. It's not for me. It's not for me. I'm
I
not
love it.
one that uses them, but
Well, here's the fun part. You have XForge, which looks impressive, obviously, but then you've also said, well, if you're the guy who needs that feeling, that experience, but you aren't quite the elite ball striker you were 20 years ago, here's another option, and here's Max.
yeah, XForge Max is one that we're really excited about because you're right. There's the XForge, who is for your scratch, your low single digit handicap, and then really when you look at it, the next iron over would be, you've got TCB and some of these other models that are similar, but really your next model over is AI 150 for that kind of like mid to high single digit player. And so asking them to make the jump to a tour iron, you're going to look great doing it, but you might not get the best numbers. And so that's where XForge Max comes in, where it's kind of that bridge for that player that wants the look, the feel, the sound of just that one piece forging, which you cannot replicate in a two piece. And so that's where that one fits in the line. And you can see when you're looking at the two irons next to each other, they both have kind of a similar design language in terms of mass centered right behind the golf ball, which is helps with feel, helps with workability. But on the Max iron, you're going to notice there's two pockets that are right in the back there, and those are there to help with perimeter weighting and just give you a little bit more forgiveness. It's not a game improvement iron by any means. It's still a better player iron, but it's going to have forgiveness kind of for if you do tend to have slightly less consistent strikes.
Well, it's very notable from a visual that there's plenty of material sitting directly behind the point of contact, which I think is what most players are looking for when they want something to feel awfully good in their hands. One of the things I can't fully tell is how much wider is the top line or the sole on the Max versus the regular.
Yeah, so there is some slight adjustments that we make. So there's a little bit more offset, a little bit more sole width. You'll really notice that in the longer irons, not necessarily as much in the shorter irons. I mean, it's still wider, but in the longer irons, it's looks more forgiving. The top line's a little bit thicker, but we've had some better players, test these. We've had other people in and out of the ECPC looking at them, and it's not one of those things where you look at it and go, oh yeah, I can tell that's a game improvement, or it doesn't look like a player's iron. This thing looks like a player's iron. It's just that nuanced little detail of just a little bit thicker than XForge. So it still looks like something that you're used to looking at if you're coming from a CB type of iron.
Yeah, and it's for your buddy who's afraid of all the new technology that's out, going sort of bare bones in a feel-based profile that actually has some support. It's funny the amount of guys I see using these older irons that just absolutely have such little technology built into them, and it's like, I know you're afraid of the fancy ones with the badges and all that, so maybe this is something we point them to as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the person who's playing this is certainly interested in kind of it's a traditionalist, it's a purist type of mindset.
Mm.
And that this player might believe like this is the way golf was supposed to be played, this is the way it should sound. And I think this is a great product for that player. I think it's also good for someone who might have some speed, but they need a little bit more forgiveness, because I probably put myself into that camp where it's like maybe on some of these other irons, in the short irons, it might just be it's too much power. I need something that's kind of dumbed down, but you've got some forgiveness baked into it. And you just don't make irons or see irons made that way anymore with the modern technology. So it's a cool, really cool construction, and the product is amazing and looks great.
It does look awesome. Speaking of looking awesome, now that we've dropped through the entire lineup, you haven't forgotten about AI 300, about AI 200. I noticed we've been getting some releases via email about crazy finishes on some of the
Yeah.
inline AI series. I saw Brush Copper, which looks absolutely outrageous. Why does that matter? Why are you guys having so much fun? And what can we expect in the future? Are you going to continue to push the envelope on finish as well?
100%. I mean, I think the finish thing is fun because it's an opportunity for us to bring different flavors of world class products, right? And I think you look at personalization and some of these other things that we see, and not just golf, but in a lot of the things that we're interested in. And so it's a fun project for us to work on. And I think I had said before, like I was a golfer before I was worked in golf, and you'd see limited release type stuff, and whether it's something that you personally have a connection to, or that style or that taste of whatever finish or limited drop, it's just fun. And I think that like this is an opportunity for us to kind of have fun with some of our products and bringing out different finishes, even the weight colors that we have now. So we have the different weight badges that have different color. It's just a fun way for us to um, bring something fresh, bring something new that, golfers, real golfers are like, hey, like even if it's not for you, you see it and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like it's not, maybe not for me, but you're still thinking about, at some point we'll bring something out that is for you. And so it is a fun, and you'll definitely continue to see it, whether that's in irons, wedges, drivers. We've done some different things with drivers. We had Sandstorm this year, which looked awesome. And so it's definitely a fun piece of the puzzle for sure.
So interesting point there. And I remember like my custom and some of the like the crazy stuff from the custom shop or whatever you want to call it there. I had an epic flash Sub Zero that was like blue and white that no one else had, and it made it so unique to me. And this is part of what I'm seeing with this drop, like the brush copper. You can get the weighting in like what I call Canada and blue as a joke, but the idea that I can get the same crazy finish my buddy has, but we still have a chance to being unique to ourselves. I think that is so good.
Yeah, it's great, and I think it's a way for Callaway, the brand, to kind of show and connect with golfers in terms of, like I said, we're everyone here. I mean, if you've met Finley, you've met Luke, you've met anyone on the team, like we're behind the brand, but like we're all golfers too. And so it's a cool way for us to be able to kind of work with the different products that we're bringing, and allowing the golfer to get kind of a customized, personalized experience.
Well, what a fun wander through the new lineup. It looks fantastic. I think everyone has to know before we wrap today, Zach, what's in the recently a dad Zach bag? Have you got more forgiving yet?
What's funny is I actually this morning before this call, I ordered myself a set of AI 150s, and I did put an AI 200 iron in there. Uh,
Okay.
just to we'll see. We'll tweak. We'll test it out. If not, I'll probably be looking at maybe adding a couple of the XForge Max long irons in there. We're dipping our toe, but I do realize it's you got to look at the bottom of the bag. You got to look at the top of the bag again. I mean, um, you know how it is. You start tweaking, and then it's like, oh, what if I tweak this and tweak that? So it's It's fun though.
Yeah. Opus in the bag, I assume.
Yep, Opus in the
The
bag.
platinum or the standard?
I play platinum in the 60 and the sand wedge, and then the 50 is just your standard Opus. And then got the UW in there. Been kind of tweaking the 3-wood spot. It's not sitting well with me. So I got a mini driver in there. Maybe we'll see. Maybe I'm adding a wedge and yanking a 3-wood. I don't know. We'll
Okay. And then
next time
driver?
I'll have a different answer. Drivers, triple diamond. Great. Can't complain there.
No big deal. And then golf ball final.
Ooh, golf ball. This is a good one. And I'm sure JB probably put you up to this. So
He did not actually.
Okay, so I always play. I've kind of bounced back and forth between Chrome Tour and Chrome Tour X, but I've kind of settled more recently on Chrome Tour X. And then recently, Gordon and we were out at Sand Valley doing some partnership thing, and we played a couple rounds. And he was playing the Chrome Tour X Stripe golf ball, and you kind of like, well, it's not really for me. And after 3 days of watching him putt with it and just watching it kind of turn end over end, the last day I was like, can I try that tomorrow? And so I've only played once since then, but I played that golf ball and I'm like, this is interesting. I like this a lot. It's just fun to putt with. So I don't know. There's something there.
Yeah, the stuff that the guys are doing on the golf balls right now is so good. I was disgusted about what they put on what I'm calling the Pittsburgh Major because no one likes Pittsburgh. But I actually have a brother-in-law who hopefully listens to this and laughs because I made him go get some. But the Quail Hollow ones, I actually got a few dozen to put in play because they look so good with the blue and the little hornet on it. Like what an unbelievable effort that was to make that look good.
Yeah, the golf ball stuff is fun because, obviously the investment is slightly lower than maybe new limited edition irons. And there's so many different drops coming out. If you don't get in on one drop, you can get in on a different one. And it's fun to play with the different designs. And yeah, it's cool.
It really is, especially if you have a purist friend. So I got a set of a dozen of the turnbox ones. So every time someone who's a little stuffy comes out, I'll take like a hamburger ball with me. You know what I mean? Just man, it's fun. Cool. Well, I won't take up any more of your time today. I really appreciate the breakdown. I think THPers are going to be very excited when they look at what I consider an unbelievable extension of the AI lineup. It looks awesome.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. And anytime I know we got some other stuff to talk about here in a couple weeks, so it'll be great.
Well, you heard it here first. They are not done. New things will be coming. Everyone, if you're playing golf this weekend, have a great time. Go check out the new AI 150, Fusion Plated, Fusion 250. And if you're feeling really good about yourself, go check out the new XForge. They look sick. We'll see you guys next week. Now it's time to send it over to Don Brown for this week's Shaft Education, brought to you by True Temper.
I've been informed by our social media coordinator that I cannot call myself Dr. Don because I do not have a PhD. I only have 25 years of designing golf shafts, so I guess that's not enough. Anyways, this week's question. We've got a tester who really loved the Nexus, and everyone who has tested it does have that same feeling. Wants to know what that means for how they'd use steel fiber in their iron shafts. So if you like the Nexus Blue, you'd want to go something with more of an active tip section, like the Steel Fiber FC. If you like Nexus Black, you want to go something more like our Steel Fiber I-95 series, which is a more firm tip section. The Nexus shafts only have that steel fiber in the top section, whereas the Steel Fiber iron shafts have them running the full length, so they are going to feel a bit more stable and a bit more harsh. So depending on what flex you're in the Nexus, you might want to back off a little bit in the iron shafts. I hope that helps. Glad you're enjoying the Nexus. If you haven't tried Nexus yet, get out there and try it. Talk to you guys later.